No, I do not know what is going on with our with the cam this morning, but a big good morning to everybody. You are looking at a big white blank screen there. It should even out here in a second. But a big good morning to everyone. Welcome to your wholesaling, lease options, and marketing mastermind morning session. Good morning, good morning. Let's see if we can even out some of the brightness that's going on here. Hey, there we go. You guys should be able to see it a little bit better now. Yeah, it just depends on how bright the sun's coming in. I press a little button and the the slides open. So good morning, everyone. If you have any urgent questions, go ahead and enter them into the GoToWebinar control panel. We will hold out here for another minute before we jump into our segment this morning. Let me touch base with some of our panelists. Mr. Bill Rafter, how are things going on your end?
Hey, everything's going fine, Gil.
Excellent, excellent. Any urgent questions, announcements? You've been making a lot of phone calls lately with brokers, agents, and even first-time wholesalers. How are some of those calls going? Any interesting observations you wanted to point out or updates for your one-on-ones and your private coachings?
Yeah, this is a very interesting lesson to be learned that I think would be applicable to everybody. I talked to a student last night, and this is like buying all the ingredients for a cake and setting it on the counter before you decided what kind of cake you want to bake. So what the guy did is he got into a bidding war. It's a brand new newbie investor, got into a bidding war on a particular property in a Midwestern market, and he was a successful bidder. And he put up $1,000 of his own earnest money, money that kind of almost breaks the bank account, to win this bid before he ever sat down and determined what the true value of the property would be after it was fixed up. Because the property, it's a full gut property, and he didn't really analyze what the after repaired value of the property would be once it's fixed up, and also analyze the comps to determine how the subject property compared to the other properties in the neighborhood that were selling. Example, most of the properties in the neighborhood are selling anywhere from $225 to about $235, right in there, depending on the square footage, condition, and location. And so that property that he had appears to be, if not the largest, one of the largest properties in the neighborhood. And there's a very important lesson here. When you're putting that kind of money into a property and you're going to try to sell it retail, you don't want the largest property in the neighborhood. In other words, you don't want a 2,800 square foot house in a 1,700 square foot neighborhood. You don't want a property you need to get 280 for in a neighborhood where the properties are consistently selling at 230, because people that are buying in a 230 neighborhood are going to look at properties in that range. Somebody that wants a 280,000 plus property is not going to look for it in a $230,000 neighborhood. They want to look at it in a $300,000 neighborhood or a $350,000 neighborhood, and they're going to try to negotiate a great deal to get it down maybe to 280. So that was the biggest mistake that he made, was to not find out what the true value of the property was and then compare the subject property, the one he wanted to buy, to the other properties in the neighborhood to see if they truly were comparable. And the answer was they weren't. This was the most expensive property in the neighborhood and the largest, and it required a tremendous amount of fix-up. In other words, it was a full gut. And Gil, is anytime you get involved in a full gut, I don't care how good you are and what kind of projections that you make, there's always hidden things that you hadn't counted on. once you start opening up walls and dealing with structures and stuff like that, there's always something that pops up, or there's a requirement by the city that you hadn't counted on. You know, like they want you to hire an engineer and put a beam in that's twice as big as the one you counted on putting in, which means instead of spending $5,000, you got to spend 10 or something like that. So the biggest mistake then, so let's review. The biggest mistake he made was not properly evaluating the property and finding out truly what it would sell for and comparing that to the other properties in the neighborhood. And so everything else he did beyond that caused him problems. So now he's in a heck of a fix. He's going to lose his $1,000 earnest money. He's going to destroy the relationship that he had with the realtor. The realtor did some things that she shouldn't have done in regards to her relationship with the seller, so the seller's probably going to cancel the listing, and it's just going to be a nightmare simply because he didn't do his homework in regards to comping the property out properly and then comparing it to the other properties in the neighborhood. There's some other issues, but those are the most important ones. So the message is, and the lesson is, when you're comping out a property that you're considering buying, either wholesaling or especially if you're going to get involved in the rehab, make sure that you're absolutely confident on what that property would sell for realistically once it's fixed up, and compare that retail property to the other properties in the neighborhood and determine, are you on the high end, are you right there in the sweet spot, or are you on the low end? If you're on the sweet spot of the low end, you're good to go. But if you're the most expensive property in the neighborhood, the likelihood is you're going to have some challenges in selling that property, and it could turn out to be a break even or a loss once you finally tally everything up and the property is finally sold and closed. Back to you, Gil.
Yeah, and it's starting to sound like one of those Spanish telenovelas. You know, hot female agent does something with the listing. Guy goes off into the auction, starts bidding up, doesn't know what he's doing, and you end up with this mixed bag of goodies at the end of the day. Now, you know, on the plus side, you know, great for taking action, at least doing something. You know, auctions, any bidding wars, if you guys don't already know this, we don't like to play that game. It's at least not in Los Angeles, right? It's ultra competitive. We see a lot of people use the strategy of bidding up the price, okay? The numbers no longer make sense. They know it, we know it. All they're doing is bidding it up, tying up the property, okay? And once the competition disappears, they'll renegotiate the contract and claim that the property has too much damage anyway. Now that doesn't apply to auctions, but it does apply to listings and other scenarios, right? At the auctions, you're dealing with some serious sharks. Now these are great buyers to buyer leads that you can pursue or build some relationships with, since they're buying properties quote unquote blind. But you would be really surprised at how much due diligence these guys put in on the front end before they even go out to the auctions. If you're just getting started, might not be the best place for you to get started sourcing leads and deals. If you're gonna go to the auctions, do your research, right? If you're already working in our group coaching program, or maybe you want to start going into auctions, have that conversation with Bill so that you guys can analyze properties prior to going there. Because if you're ready to buy, right, then you want to make sure you're buying it at the right price, or just experience that particular environment while you wait for direct mail to hit, while you wait for your Craigslist marketing to kick in. Just do your due diligence prior to going to the auctions. And these different bidding wars. Yes, there are people that just bid up, tie it up, let the competition disappear, and then they will go back, renegotiate the contract. It's I wouldn't call it a strategy. But there are some people that are simply just doing that. Welcome to those that logged in early. Just a quick shout out for the people that jumped in early on the session. Ashley, we have Anthony, Brenda's on the session here today. Carl, Dana, Franco, Friend is on the session. We always enjoy seeing Friend on there. Jeff, Kelvin, Lee, Lilia, Mark, Maria, Phil. Yeah, you guys were here before the 9 a.m. session, so congratulations. I mean, props. If you guys have anything in particular, a lead, some scenarios you want to run, enter it in there. We want to make sure we give you the kind of support, and we appreciate you guys jumping on the session, and especially on a Friday morning, getting ahead of things. So fantastic. Next question, we'll jump right into if we're good to go on that one. Let's see. I'm gonna go walk through a house today. Awesome. Guy only wants $20,000. I'm gonna try to talk him down though. Thinking about structuring seller financing lease option. Okay, good. Cash offer, rent to own, lease with an option to buy, an owner financing offer, some sort of backup offer. It's called the choice close. That way, their options are A, B, or C, all of which would lead back to you, right? As opposed to take my cash offer or leave it, and there's less likelihood for them working with you. So, question, when doing a lease option, the property stays in the seller's name until the debt is paid, right? Yes. Owner still owns the property up until the tenant buyers purchase the property outright. There are different ways to structure it. Each deal is unique and different. Before you go into the final signing and documents, there is some deal structuring involved to review how the numbers are going to work. Now, you don't have to worry about that before you even get a marketing agreement. At the very least, you can get a tentative or a marketing agreement which locks up the property, okay? And then you can get into here's exactly how the numbers are going to work after you've done the extra due diligence, research the pricing and the numbers. You want to get some sort of commitment or signs of life from the seller before moving forward into how the numbers will work, right? You don't ever go into KFC, ask for the recipe of the chicken, and they hand it over to you, right? You go in there, you buy your chicken, and you leave. Same in doing deals. We don't reveal the exact, here's how the numbers are going to work until we get an appointment, until we get a tentative contract, a listing, a marketing agreement, some sort of commitment from the seller. That's going to depend on where you are at in your skill set or investing or experience level, right? If you are just getting started out, simply getting a name and an email to send them the marketing agreement or the email that does all the selling, that's going to be a win for you when you first start out, right? As you start to bring in contracts, your benchmark is now going to be, before you talk to anyone, have they signed the marketing agreement so that you can move forward and do the extra due diligence. Sellers appreciate the fact that this is how we do business. It's more professional, and they understand that's the name of the game. They need to verify that we're the right people to deal with before they go further. We need to verify that they're genuinely interested in doing business. Hopefully, we've done our jobs in building rapport, establishing some value, or demonstrating some solutions and some experience to help get the problem solved before we actually go into the exact numbers, right? We do not talk numbers or negotiate that before an appointment or even on the phone, right? So who pays the taxes and back taxes on the property until the debt is paid? The guy said the place has about $2,500 in back taxes. Now, again, each scenario is different. We like to take a look at it closer once we have a marketing agreement. But we can give you some things to look out for, like some of the items that I had mentioned above and earlier. Bill, anything you wanted to add on to this in terms of what to look out for and some possible scenarios or transition lines that this investor can use to convert the seller to put pen to paper?
Well, first of all, let's answer those questions. Again, this is information that you're going to deal with on the back end once you've got the property tied up, just like Gil said. So you're not going to get into all this minutia. So let's talk about a couple of the pieces of minutia, and then we'll answer the question of how to convert the seller. First of all, in your agreement, if you're using the basic marketing agreement, then when you have the attorney prepare the final documents, make sure there's provisions in there that clearly state that the seller is responsible for the taxes and insurance during the option period. So they're still responsible to make sure that's paid. And also you want to put provisions in there that the tenant buyer agrees to get renter's insurance and provide proof of same before they move in. So those are a couple of tips on those issues. But yeah, the debt stays in the name of the seller, and the seller is responsible for the payment on the underlying debt or mortgage, and also the seller is responsible for the payment of the taxes and insurance during the option period. And the tenant buyer should have renter's insurance that will cover their contents, and also it provides a hazard insurance policy that if the tenant buyer has any visitors and somebody trips and falls, it indemnifies the owner of the property against suit, because that additional coverage protects the owner of the property as well. So how do you convert this over? Well, real simple. You obviously are going to look at the property, and you're going to go ahead and the most important thing that you need to communicate to the seller is, number one, the rent's going to be paid, and number two, the tenant buyer is going to treat the property as though it's their very own home, which it will, and they're going to care for the property. They're going to take care of the day-to-day maintenance, and they're going to treat the home just like they own it today. And that's the biggest message that you need to communicate. And the way we specifically communicate that is, number one, you're going to do a background check, credit report. You're going to run the tenant buyer by your mortgage broker in town and make sure they're going to be able to qualify for the mortgage in the next 12 to 24 months. And so you're going to have a viable candidate that wants the property, and the key is the seller gets to make the final decision. Once you've done all the pre-screening and done all that legwork, then the seller gets to meet the folks, and the tenant buyer agrees to release any financial information, including a rental application, to the seller. The seller gets to review everything, gets to meet the tenant buyers and talk to them, and the seller gets to make the final decision. They're the ones that hand the tenant buyer the keys to the property. And that's their biggest fear, is that you're going to try to push an unqualified candidate down their throat, and they're going to end up with somebody that can't pay and is going to tear up the property. And so if you can convince them with your background and the fact they get to make the final decision and meet the tenant buyer, that should eliminate that objection, and that's the biggest objection that there is. If you can overcome that one, then they're going to be ready to do business with you. Back to you, Gil.
Awesome. Let me just unmute myself on here. It should still be me, right? Awesome. All right, so it looks like you can hear me again. Let me just mute Bill so we don't get the echo there in the background. We have a panelist on the session. It always says waiting for name. I'm just wondering, is this Mr. Serrano? Are you live with us this morning? I know you're in Ohio today. You were in Seattle the other day, Ohio today. Probably Florida, the next market. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know where you're going to next. We're supposed to be heading back to California. So Henry, is that you? Just let me know if you wanted to jump on, if you had any announcements. We are releasing our strategy here in the next couple weeks. I am bugging these guys, and they are working around the clock to roll it out. And again, we've been getting inundated with requests for marketing, and just taking a look at what you guys have available for a marketing budget and what you would like to achieve. There's somewhat of a disconnect there, right? It's like I wanna travel to Europe, but I only have enough of a flight ticket to get to to make it to the airport. Past the airport, I don't have enough of a budget to get myself to Europe. And so, are there other ways you can travel to Europe? Absolutely, right? On a different budget. So we wanted to try to carve out some different routes where the desired outcome is to do deals, to wholesale, but to wholesale real estate that would fit the marketing budget that you guys have. And so they've been working around the clock to roll that out, so we should get that to you guys as soon as they get the formal course and the training packet together, right? But if anybody is on a bootstrapping budget for direct mail, please hold on to it. If you haven't done a deal off of your direct mail campaign in the last 6 months, and over 6 months, then I would recommend you change up your list, you change up your criteria, or you update what you're doing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And if you've been sending out marketing for over 6 months, testing it consistently, then I would seriously come to the conclusion that we need to change something on here, because this marketing budget, can we do a deal? Sure. Do I want to wait 10 years to do another deal off of the campaign? No. Right? So we are going to update some of the strategies that we're rolling out. Next question. This one's a relatively easy one. Some people make a real big deal out of it. Has anybody had a seller try and change around the contract that you sent over, or try to rewrite the contract? Happens, it does happen. It happens frequently in markets where you have territories where sellers are a lot savvier, right? For example, California or Florida. That's a good point. It's not even so much that they're savvy, it's just a lot of people getting caught up in the hype. That's true. So in territories like that, you have people that are tuned into the marketplace. They hear the buzzwords, real estate's turning and whatnot, and so they want to be hands-on with your documentation. Now, I don't make it a big deal. I let the seller go through the paperwork, update it in such a way that he is comfortable and he gets what he wants, right? Where if he wants to see a line on there that says tenant buyers are not allowed to touch the pool, please, it's the seller who's going to handle maintenance, then we'll update the documents to read that, okay? If he wants to put something on there about all parties must agree, since it's an inherited property, or, we want to close in 60 days, 90 days, 3 months, we let them go through the document. We encourage them to do so. I would prefer engagement with me versus no engagement and no conversation whatsoever, because that tells me that they're doing business with somebody else, right? We review the contract and what items they want to add on there. And again, sometimes this is really more of an objection that's a surface level irritation. Is that really what they want to do? Is that what it's going to take to do business, or what's most important to them? Likely it's not, right? If you're getting this objection earlier in your conversation on the front end, before you've even seen the property, that's just objections that they throw at you to see if you are confident, if you are practiced, if you know what you're doing, and if you're the type of person that doesn't give up at the first sign of a challenge, right? Or a question or an obstacle. Because your motivated sellers have problems, they have challenges, they have obstacles that they need help overcoming. And they're not going to do it with you if you're the kind of person that breaks at the first sign of difficulty. Okay, so we will review what items they want to change up on there or update with the document. We may reword it because what they want to say and how they put it in the document doesn't add up right, the intention of what they are trying to put on the paperwork and to give them that warm fuzzy feeling that they're hands on, that they're in control, that we're listening to what they want. And we can deliver on that. Now, if they're going to ask something ridiculously unreasonable and it doesn't make sense, we let them know that, right? That with this particular item, that's not going to fly. You want to do $100,000 over what's selling in the area, even on a rent to own. Now, it's a great strategy because we can command top dollar, we can get full retail, but there is nothing in this area that we have found to justify getting over $100,000 more than the house that's perfectly rehabbed in the area, right, and ready to sell. So maybe I'm missing something, right? Maybe there's a comp or some piece of information or data that you have access to. Would you mind sending that over so we can rerun the numbers, figure out how we can make this work, right? Not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker of an objection, and that's right. Sellers have their lines. You need to know yours. Bill, when it comes to your docs, do your sellers really rewrite the documentation? How engaged are they with the documents? Because even with the sellers that I've dealt with that say they want to review the contracts, it just seems like they don't really review them, or they want to change up like a couple of words on there, or their attorney's going to add some what do you call that? They're more of like vanity, fluffy words, or somebody mentioned it yesterday. The attorney added like 2 lines, charge their client a couple $100 for it, just to justify collecting an invoice, right? Is this a big deal for you guys? How do you address a seller that wants to get hands-on with the documentation?
Well, I mean, if all things considered, if they've essentially agreed to the terms, meaning the numbers, the price is good, and the rest of the numbers are good. If it's owner financing, the numbers there are good. Whatever it is, it's just that they don't like some of the language in the agreement. If it's reasonable, I'll try to accommodate the seller. And sometimes you're right; they just want to stroke their ego to show you that they own the property, they're in control, and they want to make some changes, and then everything's wonderful. Occasionally, you'll have a seller that goes, crazy. But we had a seller that actually in the Midwest area, and she was highly sophisticated, had been a credit manager and also had been an operations manager in a large real estate firm, commercial firm. And she went in and literally rewrote the agreement. But she did such a good job is a lot of the clauses and information that she put in there I use to this day. For instance, it was a lease option deal. She went in and put that the tenant buyer is not supposed to make changes to the property without the owner's permission. It generally says that. But she got real specific. She named everything, but one of the things she included was to be no changes to the landscaping. And I talked to her about that. She said that they had some bad experiences in their business where tenants had gone in and completely changed the landscaping to the detriment of the property. It actually caused the value of the property to go down. So they put that in there, and to this day, I have that clause in, that section of the lease option that the tenant can change anything, including the landscaping, without doing that. The other thing she did is she put language in there that said that the tenant buyer had to get a renter's policy annually and provide proof that the policy was in place prior to move-in, and also proof annually that they renewed it, so that way the seller was protected and also required the tenant buyer to list the seller as additional insured or a lost payee, depending on your state, on the tenant buyer's renter's insurance policy. So that protected the seller, and also it gave the seller information every year that the policy in fact had been renewed and was still in place. So that protected the seller for the term of the deal. So to this day I still include that language. So the message is, it's not always to your detriment that the sellers are changing these agreements. Sometimes it's a benefit because there's things that you hadn't considered, and they actually make your agreements better. So as long as they're not destroying the intention of the contract, I usually try to accommodate the sellers and work with them on the changes that they tried to make. Back to you, Gil.
Awesome. Thanks for adding on to that. And yeah, those are the common ones when it comes to rent-to-owns. It has to do a lot with the property, right? Who's going to take care of the maintenance? When it comes to wholesaling, I don't get nitpicked on the earnest money deposit, Jenny. There are times that it has been brought up when I'm sitting at the kitchen table walking the seller through the documentation and the paperwork. For houses up to about $250,000, I will put an earnest money deposit of $100 on there. These are deals that I've done in LA County. If it's $250,000 to $750,000 in sales price, then I'll put a $500 deposit on there. I've never done more than $500 earnest money deposit on a deal, even on properties over the $1 million marker. I've gotten stuff locked up in high-end communities here in LA County, nice areas of Santa Monica, the real ritzy, upscale, type of neighborhoods. We've done stuff overlooking downtown Los Angeles and the Sunset Hills, the kind of stuff you see on the real estate reality TV shows. what's that, flipping out, right? The guy that does the high-end rehabs. And yeah, so not more than $500 in the earnest money deposit. Not a big deal. If they want to go through it, I think it's better that they're engaged and negotiating or talking with you as opposed to them not doing it, right? Now, what you don't want at the end of the day is to have a seller gut your contract, rewrite everything, or worse, pull some generic document that they found on the internet and they want to use that, right? So that's what you don't want to happen. And without getting into specifics, it sounds like it's a generic scenario, but those are definitely the things to look out for. If you have anything specific that they've changed up that we can dissect for you, let us know so that we can review that and proceed with the with the right level of intensity, right? Again, if it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. If they want to update, the closing date, or correct. What if my cash buyer wants to use their contracts, their title escrow, all that? If you have a cash buyer that's providing you with turnkey documentation and vendors to do business with, I would seriously consider it, especially if you're a brand new person that has nothing in place anyway. No docs, no resources, no vendors, nothing, right? So at least you have something to work with. You can modify those templates to make it relevant to the business that you're in, that complements you in your local market, right? Okay, so just got a text message here from Henry. We are going to have a workshop in San Diego. So for those of you that were asking about our next workshop, it will be July 26th and 27th in San Diego. And it's going to be, it's a 2-day intensive workshop. So dates July 26th and 27th. If you are in NorCal, we're going to be in Fresno on July 19th. And this is going to focus on wholesaling and talking to sellers. So if you were at the last workshop, we extended complimentary invites and tickets as a bonus to the next training session with Henry and his workshop. So do claim those, right? Because some of you guys I do recall seeing at the workshop, and you guys get complimentary access to that. Alrighty, next question. There is a property with owner who's deceased. There's back taxes levied on the son and other liens. The attorney in charge of the estate is being bullish. telling me the heirs don't want to do anything with the house, yet he's doing nothing to help get them out of it. Okay? So, the heirs don't want anything to do with the house, but this attorney, or is this attorney? The attorney in charge of the estate is not helping them get out of it. This sounds like a case of, I'm going to end up firing this guy anyway, so I would try to find out during my conversation with the seller or with the family if that's the direction they're leaning towards, so that I can react and move forward appropriately. I pulled title and found out info he hadn't even bothered to get. So this definitely sounds like somebody lazy, and what the heck is he doing for this deal? Now I need the deceased social security number and authorization, but no. Would you circumvent the attorney and talk with the heirs, or keep pounding at the attorney? I would keep calling the attorney. I would talk to the administrator in the attorney. I would talk to somebody in their office that could get me the answers or get feedback on this particular lead deal, or other people who we can talk to move this conversation forward, right? I don't know if the attorney is absolutely lazy and has never done or lifted a finger. It sounds like that. Or it may be a case of, maybe these owners haven't paid him and he doesn't want to do anything until he gets paid, right? Or there's actually somebody else handling the file since the attorney is too busy, but Bob in the back office is actually working on this thing, and this thing's moving forward, right? The main attorney just doesn't know what's going on. Different scenarios that could be possible there, right? I would definitely try to get a hold of the owners, of the new heirs, go to the house, talk to the neighbors, write letters. Normally the neighbors of inherited properties in a territory would have some info about the owners, especially if that piece of property has been in the family from one generation passed on to the next. We've had sessions where we've broken down situations or deals that were sourced by driving for dollars, and how we were able to connect, and how the local investor was able to move their deals forward was because they talked to the neighbors, right? It's the neighborhood watch program on, where I'm from in the Philippines, we call it the Coconut Wireless. Everybody knows what's going on in the community, and you just got to talk to the neighbors. It's one of two common scenarios. Number one, they're collecting the mail for them and keeping an eye on the property, right? Because they don't want homeless people, drug dealers. They don't want the house to get taken advantage of and have undesirable neighbors. So they're keeping a close watch on it. They're helping out with the mail, right? So that's one common scenario. The other common scenario is that there's always that owl who's always watching the entire neighborhood. He's like, he's like the NSA. He just watches everything all the time, knows what's going on, keeps tabs on everyone. And this guy is just looking for somebody to talk to. So that's how you're gonna, those are angles, channels, action steps that you can pursue. I would definitely encourage you to talk to the owners, right? Because based on what you're telling me, that the heirs don't want to do anything with the house. That is a problem there. That is a situation we can jump on board and work with. Most people would give up when they come across an attorney, an agent, or a decision maker that may not seem they're 100% on board at the start. And so chances are you might have less competition on this lead. I would try to find that out as well from the attorney, right? Bill, anything you wanted to add to that one? Yeah, unmute you on here.
Yeah, Gil, the first thing if I had an uncooperative attorney, the first thing I would do is go down and look at the probate file. It'll give you all the information that you need. It'll tell you who the executor or executrix is. Generally, there's not an administrator or administratrix involved if there was an executor that was appointed as part of the will or trust. So find out if there's somebody making the decisions. That would be the executor or executrix. Your probate file is going to tell you that. And also it's going to tell you how far along the property is in the probate process. The state laws are all different, so it depends. Usually it's 6 months. And so if it hasn't gone through the probate process yet, you couldn't buy it anyway. So the file will tell you all that, and it'll give you all the information that the attorney knows, and then you can proceed forward. The next step would be absolutely talk to the neighbors and get that information, because they usually know what's going on. And also, it'll give you the name of the executor or executrix in the probate file. It'll have usually their address and their contact information, and I would attempt to contact them to find out what they want to do with the property, because they're the one ultimately that's going to make the decision anyway. And after you've done all that and it still looks like a good deal, then the next step would be to run a title check on the property and find out what the true picture is. Because, if it's an estate, then I would question how the son's personal taxes could get attached to the estate. So I'd really want to have a title check and find out what's truly going on in that area, because that doesn't sound right to me. So once you've done all that and things are still looking good and you can talk to the executor, then at that point you can do what Gil suggested and ask them if they're going to continue to do business with this particular attorney, or are they going to fire him or her and find another attorney to handle things, or what their plans are there. And then once you understand that, you can maybe figure out a way to do business with them and make arrangements to purchase the property. Back to you, Gil.
Awesome. So, can I get in trouble for trying to go directly to the sellers? Maybe, right? Maybe, but here's what you shouldn't do, right? If there's a listing agent, if there's an appointed decision maker or an attorney, definitely have a conversation with them. You got to respect the food chain. You got to respect the chain of authority or the chain of command, whatever relationships are in place. I like to honor those. Anybody that needs to get paid, let's get him paid, right? Anybody that needs to decide on this can jump on and let's decide on this. And that also gives me clues as to the quality of the lead and deal that I'm dealing with, okay? I don't panic at the first sign of objections. I expect that. That will come up. It's called growing pains. It's part of the learning process. Some people call it Murphy's Law, where if somebody can, is that Murphy's Law, where something can go wrong, everything will go wrong? There are challenges that will arise. Okay, not all deals go from A to Z with not a hiccup. Very rarely does that happen, right? When you grow taller, you're going to get some shin splints. It just happens, right? So I'm expecting those things to come up. I'll have conversations with these decision makers, with these lawyers, with these agents, with this tax guy who's now the financial advisor, but oddly enough, it's also this tax guy that advised them on this investment property. Don't ask me why they still have them as an advisor when they put them in the sucky scenario in the first place. I'm okay with having those conversations. We'll just move forward. I'm not going to spend an hour on them, right? I'll let them talk amongst themselves and attempt to move forward here with baby steps. Now, as soon as we get some signs of life or pushback from that decision maker, where this third party who's supposed to help move the deal forward, like an attorney in this case, and they're not doing their job, then we'll try to work with somebody or get the information from somebody who can help us move forward. Your priority is to help the seller, the person on title, get rid of this particular property. This attorney, this agent, this broker, they're supposed to be on your team. They're supposed to help the seller get out of this property. If not, that person is now dead weight, right? They're like that rotting limb that is dying away and you got to cut it off. You go to the hospital, they'll tell you to cut it off. So I am okay with that, right? If you can put it into other perspectives, whatever, will make you feel comfortable and sleep better at night, this person is now preventing the seller from getting out of the sucky situation, and this third party is preventing you from getting paid and putting food on the table, keeping clothes on your back, and the house in good order, right? So if you have to take it to that type of mindset and understanding, or put it into that perspective, maybe that's what you need to do in order to muster up the courage and confidence to go out and fight and help this particular seller get this particular deal done. And that's how we get paid. When there's problems that we solve, when there's tricky scenarios that we deal with, that's how we demonstrate our value, and that's why we collect the type of wholesaling or assignment fees that we do on these types of deals. Murphy's Law. Okay, awesome. Thanks for confirming, Maria. Right? But you know what? If they tell you, right? If they tell you and you attempt to talk to the homeowner, hey, just talk to Bob, the attorney. Just talk to Bob, the agent. So even after, what seems like this is a sucky third party who's going to end up getting fired anyway, but the decision makers, the actual owners, tell you to refer back and try to do business with them, then at least you got verification and you know how to move forward and attempt to make it work with those parties. If it still doesn't work and they don't play well, then move on, or let the homeowner know, right? There are conversations we've had with sellers where, you know what, Mr. Seller, I've tried to talk to Steve, the agent, and we've tried to get out to look at the property. It's been a week now, and we still haven't gone to see it, right? I've requested for an appointment in the next couple weeks. He's still too busy. So I'd love to keep working with Steve here, and I'd love to get out of the property. And like I mentioned when we first talked, and you guys should be saying this in your conversations because it's part of our foundation script and conversation talking to sellers, I am looking for a property to move forward with in the next 30 days. I told you that, Mr. Seller. And so you had agreed, and it seems like you wanted to move quickly. I don't want to seem like I'm rushing you, but I just wanted to get some final insight and thought here on how I can get through to Steve and take a look at this house. How would you handle it, right? Should I keep trying, Mr. Seller, or should I move on with somebody else? Put the ball in their court, right? See how awkward they seem, right? Put your problems and challenges in the situation of the seller and see how they would respond, right? Because again, that'll tell you, they'll tell you exactly how to move it forward. They'll tell you, you know what? Here's the keys to the property. Just come by anytime. Sorry you experienced that. And again, if you really feel bad about it, then still include the agent or whoever third party. You can still respect whatever agreements in terms of getting paid. You may want to adjust the payment if that person did not live up to their expectations. But for me, it's still a conversation worth having. If you don't have better quality leads to work with, that's as good as it's going to get for you. Make the most of it while you wait for a better quality lead to come through the door, right? Last question we'll jump on and tackle for this session. Wanted to include this one. And this one comes up a lot. I did like a quick 20-30 minute call with one of our investors in the program yesterday, and he's getting bombarded, or during the conversation, when they ask if he's an investor and he says yes, they hang up on him or they become nasty. This is common in territories and markets where it's a white hot market, deals are flying off the shelf, there's a lot of competition. Because you have a lot of people that are inexperienced, wasting a lot of other sellers' times. For me, I love that, right? Because that sets me apart from everybody else. I know I just have to be a little bit patient with the seller, because there's probably 100 other people that pissed him off or insulted his intelligence with a low cash offer with absolutely no justification on why that's the number they need to present. I know that. I'm expecting that. So I'm just going to be a little bit patient when I deal with the seller. I'll let him vent out a little bit. I'll even joke around with him just to get on his good side, right? But I'll let them talk. And my concern with this is I don't think you're following the conversation script that we had sent you. Because when I tell a seller, and you guys have heard this when I make calls, when a seller asks me if I'm an investor, I say yes. I don't withhold that information. I don't hide it. I'm not ashamed of it. I make sure the seller understands and and understands where I'm coming from. So when they ask if I'm an investor, yes, I am an investor. I'm purchasing real estate. I'd like to buy something within the next 30 days. I'm looking for some nice houses and some nice neighborhoods. Okay, that way. Chances are if you're doing rent to owns or lease options or owner financing, you're coming across nicer properties anyway, right? So I turn the tables, I set the bar high by saying I'm looking for some nice houses and some nice neighborhoods. Now the seller's going to change position and they're going to come after me and sell me on why this is such a great house, right? Now here's what I do add on to that so that I don't lose this seller if it's a junker property or a home run wholesale deal. Right? So I'm looking for some nice houses and some nice neighborhoods. And at the same time, if there's a house that needs a little bit of TLC or a good cleaning, I'm okay with those. You know what? I've even talked to some homeowners today where the house is just a complete junker property. So I'm okay with those. We don't shy away. We can gut the house and make it brand spanking new at the end of the day. Right? Or I do have a real estate, a rehabbing partner or agent. So I can buy those deals as well. That's not a problem for me. I'm not scared of those, right? But like I mentioned earlier, I'm looking for a nice house in a nice neighborhood, right? That way, again, we move forward in the conversation. Also, if you're talking to an investor, a homeowner, I'm curious to see why they are asking you if you're an investor. If you guys notice, when I make my phone calls with sellers, I never got asked that, not once. On the 2 times last week that I did live seller phone calls, not one single seller asked me that. It's because I'm following the guide conversation. I'm taking control of the conversation in a way that I can get information from the seller, determine if he's qualified, if he's a good lead, if it's something that I can help him out with. I have the balls, the audacity, the confidence to take control of a conversation because in the back of my mind, my intention is to get paid on this deal, to do a deal right, and to make sure that it's a win-win situation for everybody. That's where I draw my confidence from, and that's why I take control of the conversation, right? Don't tippy toes or be all meek and sheepish about taking control of a conversation because you feel like you're taking advantage. That's not the case. If you don't take control of the conversation, you're going to end up in a 20, 30, 45, 1 minute, 2 hour conversation with a seller, and you still don't know if this guy's motivated. So what you've now ended up doing is you've wasted your time, you've wasted their time, and you've wasted everybody else's time who should have been involved in this deal. Do you see the difference in the 2 scenarios, right? So focus on using the guide conversation on the front end. It's designed so that we already know what objections are coming, and you can diffuse those even before they come up, even before they actually come up. So the part of when you say you're an investor or people are hanging up on you, I think that you are saying stuff that's bringing this conversation up, or you're not saying certain pieces of information where the seller and you know that there's that elephant in the room, you haven't addressed it, or you haven't given them enough confidence. That's why they haven't lowered their boundaries, they haven't lowered their walls, or they seem like they're attacking you or they don't like you on the get-go, right? I asked for the seller's permission. I let him know. Because when I was talking to this guy, he added feedback on, yeah, but when I'm talking to them, they keep telling me that, I thought you saw the house on Craigslist. Why don't you? So it's like they expect me to know the ad. If you put yourselves in the shoes of a buyer, of a tenant, anybody shopping on Craigslist, how many ads do you look at, and do you remember every single ad? It's a trick question. The answer to that is no, unless you have a photographic memory, right? Let's flip the conversation or flip the tables here. When a seller places an ad on Craigslist, does he remember every single person that calls him and talks to him? Does he know Bob, Jim, Susie, Mike, Steve, Clara, Jennifer, Johnny? Does he remember all these people and all the information that they had told him about them being interested in the property? The answer is no, they don't, right? So if I can't expect the seller to remember everyone that they talk to, in the same way, I would appreciate it, and that's why I'm confident, and when a seller can expect me to remember every single Craigslist ad, and I tell that to the homeowners. And I tell it in a way that is nice and that's a little bit softer and falls on a good transition and allows me to, navigate those tricky conversations, right? So I let the seller know, you know what? I saw the house on Craigslist and I think it was, posted online on some other sites. I'm not quite sure. But Bob, I don't even know if that Craigslist ad is still up. So many people are posting on Craigslist ads, right? I know it's been frustrating for me because I've been trying to look for a house here. I'm ready to do business in the next 30 days, but I haven't found anything. Is now a good time? Can I ask you a few questions to see if it's a good fit for you and if it's a good fit for me? Right? So, them wondering, why didn't you look at my ad? Right? It's because I'm not in front of it and I don't even know if your ad's still up. And quite frankly, if you don't want to have a 5-10 minute conversation with me, maybe you're just not motivated enough because I was very nice, I was very respectful, I'm interested in doing business, but maybe I just caught this guy at a bad day. Move on to the next lead. Right? But during that little one-on-one too, eventually we did find out he's not using the guy conversation. He's kind of just fumbling his way through the conversation. And so at the end of it, we've simply recommended, look, you got to use a conversation, a guide conversation, because the objections, we already know what's coming. And we address those in the conversation so that they're a lot less stressful on us. It allows us to pre-screen the leads much better. Some leads you just can't move forward with, right? Would I call this person back in 30, 45, 60 days? Absolutely. It's worth checking in and just finding out, hey, is the property still available? Oh, really? Great. Right? It's been 30 days. It's been 45 days. It's been 60 days. It's been 5 months. This is a seller that has now gotten beaten up by the marketplace, or they got a good thorough education on what's really going on. So now they're like a little bit humbler, right? They're a little bit humbler. They're a little bit more open to talking to you and listening to what you have to say because their way didn't work. That's who I'm trying to get to when it comes to my follow-ups. It's a nice little concept called residual contracts. Contracts will start coming in from your older marketing as long as you're consistent and you maintain and do your follow-ups. BJ, got your question here on Facebook. And just to follow up, so you're sourcing some leads right now in the rent-to-own strategy, or wholesaling for that matter. You're focusing on wholesaling. You've done a couple rent-to-own strategies. My best recommendation for you is we can get our telemarketing and our sales team to call these people back and offer a rent-to-own, a lease with an option to buy, pre-screen them, right? And so that would be the gold marketing package so that our telemarketing team can make those phone calls for you, right? And once there are some deals to structure, then we can proceed structuring some deals, possibly joint venture. If you've never done anything, it's an option that you can, get a hold of. And we can focus on building this pipeline with you virtually because our team will handle the phone calls. We can get contracts over the phone, over the internet, or over fax with the seller. Now, if they want to meet with somebody locally, we're going to need you or somebody from your office, or just recruit a local agent who can meet with the seller locally and then lock up the particular property, right? But in order to engage and do that, we would, because it's in your local market, I would have to bring in my sales and my telemarketing team, and they can just pound the phones and focus on those leads that they are working, right? Somebody here asked about partnering up with us, and that was my consultation call yesterday. And so, yes, we can partner with you. We've updated the program where if you're going to partner with us, and it's in our markets that we pick, all you have to do is send the direct mail campaigns, right? And then we'll do like a 3-way split between you, the sales team, and the local acquisition manager. But you have to do it in markets that we picked, because some of you guys are just picking markets at random, and that's okay. But there are situations where you pick a market and it turns out you've never done a deal, you've never wholesaled anything in that area, you don't have an agent, you don't have a broker, you don't have anything in place. And so from a getting paid within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days standpoint, it doesn't look very good. I wouldn't want to join you on that journey. I do like adventures, but that's one we already know what's going to happen there. It's easier for us to do a deal virtually, and chances are, if you're doing it in a market that's turnkey, you are in a better position to do more deals. Can you assemble your local market while doing deals virtually? Yes, you absolutely can. And so if you have the time, right, I would be surprised, because you're already busy with your job or whatever, whatever else you have going on. And so doing a virtual market best complements what you're doing. All you have to do is launch the direct mail campaigns. If you want to handle some of the calls, great. We can handle a bulk of those calls, if not all of them, right? Unless you want to do some, then we'll send some your way. But I would prefer to leave it up to the professionals that are full-time on the phones to pursue these leads, right? So that's my recommendation on there on how we can get some deals done together. This new strategy, keep mentioning that you're coming out with a week or so. Is this marketing that's included in, or is this something different from that? It may be. We're still trying to see if we can source leads via text and emails for this particular strategy. So right now, the $97 marketing focuses on Craigslist for sale by owner websites. So that is a dedicated channel in itself, right? Totally different lead source. Can we find those leads on those websites? Yes. They're just not as abundant, right? But if a lead comes in and it matches that strategy, then we can monetize, we can partner up on a deal or buy it from you. As Claude would say, should I keep trying or is it over? Yeah, if you don't know what to do with something, hey, just ask the seller, ask whoever you're doing business with, should I keep trying or is it over? If you can't come up with a solution, maybe they can. Lilia, the download conversations are in the Facebook group. So all of our paperwork, our guide conversations are all in the Facebook group. So let me take you guys to our Facebook group, copy paste the link. Just go to the files section, right? Files. If you click on files, boom, all the docs are on there. And I think you already are a member of the group. Send to all. Awesome. If you guys enjoyed the session, type it in the comments and questions. Let me know if you're able to pick up a golden nugget. Let me know if you didn't learn anything on the session so that we can up the ante. All right. We don't want to overwhelm you guys. We have these sessions as support for those of you that are doing deals with us, that are trying to break into real estate. And yeah, if we're not in here for support, we have something that we can train you on and help improve the business at the end of the day. Mr. Rafter, looks like you had a comment on that. Go ahead. You are unmuted.
Yeah, Gil, go ahead. Let's do a little quick role play. Ask me if I'm an investor.
Bill, you know what? I've been getting so many calls. I'm so pissed off and tired. Are you an investor? Are you one of those? I talked to home investors the other day, and they came out and gave me an offer that nearly drove me off the mountain here. What's going on? Are you an investor?
Well, Gil, I appreciate you asking that question. Actually, I'm looking for a nice house in a nice neighborhood. I'm currently a homeowner and looking for another home in the next 30 days. And on occasion, I do invest in real estate to help take care of my family in case anything happens to me. How about you, Gil? What's your situation?
Huh. Well, we got this particular property on here, and I've been trying to sell it for like 3 months now, but agents keep calling me, trying to get a listing. Investors keep coming out and lowballing the offers. I want to sell, but I'm not desperate enough to, sell for rocks.
Well, I appreciate that, Gil. let me ask you this. I don't know if your property qualifies for what we're looking for or not, but if you have a few minutes, can you tell me a little bit about the property and, what kind of, if it needs any TLC or it's in great shape, can you tell me bedrooms, baths, conditions, and maybe why you folks bought the property originally?
I didn't even buy this thing. My aunt passed it on to us, and so we didn't even buy this thing ourselves. We just kind of fell into it.
Oh, I see. Now, are you, Gil, are you and your family actually living in a house now, or is the property, vacant? Have you already moved on?
Yeah, we've moved into the property just so that people stop, because it's not in the best shape, but it's not a bad piece of property, and so we were worried somebody's going to move into the house and start squatting. This is California. You get all sorts of mixed bag of goodies and situations going on. So we've heard some horror stories from the neighbors about people moving into the homes or pretending that they're the renters in the property.
Absolutely, that makes sense, and I'd probably do the same thing that you and your family have done there. So, well, what I hear you saying, Gil, is you're really looking for a fair price, based on the circumstances around the property, and you're not desperate, but you are looking to make a move as quickly as possible. Is that true?
Yeah. So what are you offering me here, Bill?
Well, I'm not sure, Gil. We'd have to do some evaluation on the property and maybe make arrangements for either myself or one of my associates to come out and take a look at the property. I have a guy that kind of does my inspections for me and get an idea, whether or not it would fit for us personally or otherwise. And then we could sit down with you and explore some options to see if we can come up with a way that best suits the needs of you and your family and also works for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Let's pause here real quick. I want to definitely highlight that for those of you that are just brand new. Again, if you notice, Bill's not trying to talk numbers or negotiate on price. None of that. He's simply trying to move forward to try to secure an appointment, and I'm anticipating he's going to try to get some contact information, just some baby steps to separate him from every other person that's called on and gotten stonewalled at stage one, which is just trying to even get to look at the property, right? By being able to take that baby step forward, or even just the inkling that somebody's coming out to view the property, even here in in the Los Angeles County market, from a wholesaling standpoint, sellers will wait 3 to 5 days and hold off on signing any other contract or listing agreements, right? So that's what you want to do. Just take some baby steps forward to try to get somebody out to the property. And in the mind of a seller, right, they're not complete idiots and morons all the time, right? Sometimes these guys are just wildly in outer space, and we got to bring them back down to reality. Somebody here typed on it. If you're dealing with a lot of morons and idiots in your marketing, you're probably doing the wrong marketing. But they know that, right? And so if you're going to try to talk numbers, in the back of their mind, they're thinking, Bill's never come out to see the property. How the hell did he come up with this number, right? Or, is he just going to look at Zillow.com and estimate the house of estimate the value of my property without looking at it? That doesn't seem very professional, right? So when he starts to do the California roll or the Philly fade and create some distance, well, I'd love to take a look at the property or make a good offer, something that makes sense, Gil. When can we, what's a good time to take a look at the property? Right? So he knows that, he's thinking that, and that's an objection he's thinking of. When you put that to rest, you don't even have to sell yourself. You just kind of address it in that indirect way, right? You're able to move forward. So, Bill, I don't know. We're really busy. We're just, I know we moved in here, but I work 2 jobs. So, I don't know. When are you going to come by the area?
Well, I mean, if you were going to hold an open house or show the property, what day would you normally choose in order to be able to do that?
You know what? I think, if you give us about 48-hour notice, that might work for us. My day off is on Friday.
Okay. Well, today is Friday. How about you set about a 48-hour notice? Are you folks available at all Sunday afternoon this weekend?
You know what? Maybe, and yeah.
How about at 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock? Which one of those you think would work best for you?
Let's something for 2 o'clock, right?
Okay.
And if you can call me again tomorrow, just to make sure that I got to check with the missus every time I decide we're doing something, and she doesn't know. I lose a finger. So if you could check with me on Saturday, that would be fantastic.
I understand, So anyway, I'll put you down tentatively then for 4 o'clock this coming Sunday, the 22nd. We'll meet at the house there, and then I'll give you a call tomorrow to confirm to make sure that we're on schedule for Sunday. And I'll just come on over. We'll just sit down and have a nice chat. I'll have an opportunity to take a look at the house, and then you can tell me, why your aunt originally bought the house and how you folks have loved it, and maybe we can do some business. So I look forward to meeting with you and your wife personally.
Awesome. And role play, a couple things I want to highlight with that. Bill's choice close. We call it the choice close. Do you want A or B? And A or B are options. All roads lead to you. 2 to 4. Bill probably knows 2 to 4 will work well for him. It's not, can you do Sunday at 2 o'clock? And their choices is now a yes or a no. No does not lead to moving forward. It does not lead back to you. It leads to a dead end. That's not what you want to be in. Your role is to get that appointment, get your foot in the door. If you're doing deals virtually, you just want to set it up so that somebody else can get through the door, sit down with them, or do a follow-up phone call to continue to move that particular seller forward. That's it. Keep it simple. Keep it really, really simple. Yes, the strategy that we are rolling out, we're anticipating that it's going to be easier on the conversation since we're not dealing with as many variables like we do with a single family house, right? So BJ, let me know if I answered your questions on there. We will have more role playing on the session. Definitely enjoy a good role play here every now and then. And I'd like to make some calls with you guys. So let me know if you guys have some leads that we can call on sometime next week. And otherwise, I will be posting stuff on my Facebook today. If you guys can post some feedback on the quality of the training, what you want to see, what you don't want to see, let us know, right? That way we can update the stuff that we're doing. Our intention is to help. We want to see more deals done at the end of the day, right? Sharing is caring. If this is the type of training that can benefit your property scouts, your bird dogs, or maybe you're trying to build a relationship with the other wholesalers in your area and you need to hunker down and you need some support, share these videos, plug these people into the daily webinars so that they get access to the training and get you moving forward to do more deals, right? Yeah, exactly. We're going to be posting more of this stuff on Facebook, and we want to do more deals. So Bill might have some virtual markets that he's open to. I know we have already pre-selected our markets, and we're focusing heavily on those. If you guys want to partner up and do some virtual deals, like I mentioned earlier, let's keep it simple to start out, right? Before we get into a big formal merger or anything like that. If you pay for the direct mail in a market that we select based on our track record in being able to get paid in that market, number one. Number two, there's local people on the ground who can lock up the property, negotiate with seller and buyer. And number three, there's title escrow and all the vendors in place that would help ensure the deal to move forward, right? If you cover the direct mail in those territories, we can do a 3-way split. You receive a third of the profits. The telemarketing and the sales teams would receive a third, and the local acquisition manager would receive the remaining third of that particular deal. Your only role is the marketing, and we'd like for you to make some phone calls, but if you can't, that's okay. That is what I would bring to the table, is the sales and the marketing team to handle the phone calls. We would like for, we would encourage you to jump on some and make some of these calls so you experience what we experience and that we're in the trenches too, right? People don't realize that, getting on the phones and making these calls, they can be challenging, right? And so for somebody that is looking to hire and has never done any outsourcing or never made a phone call in their life, they tend to oversimplify the process or think that it's a complete walk in the park, when sometimes it's not, right? So if that's the type of virtual marketing or investing you want to do, let's talk. I would be interested in partnering and working with you. Bill, I'm going to send some referrals your way. There's a realtor here in Pasadena asking about rent-to-owns and lease options, doing some research. And so I think it'd be worth, it'd be nice talking to her to see if she's genuinely serious about building out this particular pipeline of leads or deals. She contacted me on Facebook from a recent video that we had posted. I requested to become part of the group. How do I know if I've been accepted? If anybody has requested to be part of the group and they have not yet been accepted, let me know so we can approve your request. We like to keep the spammers and the phony profiles out of the group. So Lilia, I think you're already a member, Lilia, because I don't see you in the request. Thank you to those that have added other people to the group. There you go. Lilia, you are already in the group. You were added last Saturday by Mr. Steve Clutch. Thank you, Mr. Clutch. Do appreciate that. And all right, so have a fantastic rockin' weekend. I'm going to share some recent insights and experiences. We just picked up another rehab deal, so we're going to be working on that here. Some markets just have their own little quirks. For example, in this particular area, the owner, the previous tenant, or the previous person living in the property did not pay their water bill, and now we get stuck with the water bill. It doesn't follow the person living in the house who opened the account. It stays with the property. Didn't see that one coming. We're also dealing with trying to get utilities set up in that particular area, and they require the local city inspectors to come out before they check out or turn on the utilities. So just some new stuff we experience, doing deals and rehabbing in new territories. We're also going to be sharing some feedback and case studies from our other members and investors that are tapping into these training programs. In between Steve and Frank, that's part of our virtual wholesaling group. They've picked up, I think, 4 contracts in the last 2 weeks. Steve, can you comment on that a little bit? Tell us what production has looked like for you guys.
That's 5 now. Well, no, I guess it is 4 because my stupid quick claim deed hasn't come in yet.
Got it. So 5 contracts, 2 weeks. Some will close, some won't. Some you lose, some will stick. But that's 4 contracts that most people don't even bring in an entire year. And that's just in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Last week and then Monday, really. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Thanksgiving Wednesday.
Awesome.
This week to last week.
So let's just keep a close pulse on that market. I know postcards were sent out recently. It was one big drop, and so that's why I'm like, calls should be coming in, but
Quiet.
It's quiet, yeah. So if it stays quiet throughout the weekend, we need to jump. We need to get another mail batch out there. Our goal for that pipeline is over 100,000 in wholesaling. So in order to stay on track, we need to launch the marketing to be able to hit those particular numbers.
Yeah. We can say 5. Just kind of lock up that 120K low value.
Awesome. Nice. Mary wants to do some deals in areas that we are in. Awesome. Mary, could you type your contact number so that we can talk more and kind of coordinate that?
I think it's the same Mary. She's just a new group coaching member.
Yes.
She just has to hop on one of my sessions and we'll get the lead tracker set up and get her plugged in.
Yes. Exactly. Okay, nice. Yeah, I think she was already approved. Steve might have already added you, it looks like. So, awesome. Thank you, Mary, for jumping on board. And join the group. If you should be in group coaching so that you have access to private webinars and training sessions, live seller calls, all that other good stuff. The live calls that I do on the 9 a.m.s and the morning sessions are bonuses. But the group coaching is where we have conversations on market selection. Okay, so here's the market that we're proposing that we want to do deals in. Do you want in? Do you want out? Do you like this territory? Do you not like that territory? All right. What type of marketing budget do you have? Okay, based on what you have, here's where we would put you. We're going to provide the list if we have some available. Some of you guys are real sticklers and you want to use your own lists. More power to you. Go for it. I would just like to have a conversation to understand the marketing campaign and ensure that you are in a good position to do a deal, right? And that way you're not spending $1,000 on direct mail and sending it, if we say we're doing business in California, there are zip codes that we focus on, right? So we've had some members where, oh, you're in California, we're going to launch some marketing in San Jose. And they launched marketing in San Jose. We don't know what's going on. And turns out they picked the ghetto of San Jose, or the rough areas of San Jose. It's a nice area, though. All right. Just an example. Great session, guys, says Maria. Get current owner authorization. Okay. So Maria, Mary, I'm going to type that here for Steve just so he has your number in the chat. Otherwise, do hop on the group coaching so that you can have that conversation and move forward. Okay? We track and manage all the leads inside of Podio, so there's 100% transparency among all parties involved as to the type of action your marketing is doing. Please understand that these are marketing that we're launching. We do our very best to put you in a market that we're doing deals in. We're not rolling the dice on an area that we haven't done deals in. You got to launch marketing, and you got to be consistent as well, 3 to 6 months, right? You don't order a pizza 2 minutes later, it just pops up at the front door. If it does, I'd be a little concerned about that. But thanks for jumping on, guys. What's that, Steve?
Give me the number for that pizza company.
I don't know. I don't think that's pizzas they're serving over there. I mean, all right. So thanks for jumping on, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. In closing, we'll share this. The fortune is in the follow-up, right? If you haven't done a deal in the last 6 months from your direct mail campaign, we would make the recommendation, hold off on sending out your next direct mail marketing campaign until you can reassess or reevaluate the strategies that you're going into. All right. Big weekend this weekend. Some of you guys are joining us here locally for our bonfire. We look forward to hanging out with you guys. And we'll see you first thing on Monday on our morning session. We may keep it tight and concise depending on the questions that pop up. But if there's anything urgent, contact us on Facebook. You know how to reach us directly on these webinars. And you can also call in as well. Right. My name is Gil. On behalf of Bill, Steve, Henry, Richard Sheeman, Robert Sheeman, and the entire group of contributors, investors, and wholesalers that log on for our training and support, thank you very much. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.